welcome to another episode of the TraxionGG podcast. And I'm very excited this week as we are joined by two people from BeamNG.drive to talk about the game, where it's headed, the recent updates, and also the origins of the title. So joining us today is Nataliia and Jared. How are you both?
Oh,
very well,
great.
thank you.
Yeah, it's in the morning, had my coffee, so.
Oh, nice. So Jared, just quickly, whereabouts in the world are you?
Oh man, good old Arizona, right in the middle of the desert. So much fun. It's actually raining right now, so it smells really nice, but
oh, it's like Britain. Brilliant.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Britain simulator. So much rain, help me.
And it's certainly a thing we all share. I'm in Amsterdam. Yeah. It is also raining horizontally, so that is fun.
Oh, well, at least we're all indoors. And yeah, it's definitely wintertime now. So actually, Nataliia, if you'd just like to quickly explain what your daily role is with Beam, please. Would that be all right?
So I am the marketing and communications lead here at BeamNG, and I deal with all things related to marketing, PR, community, and also customer support.
Oh, nice. That sounds like it's a very busy role.
It sure is, especially lately.
Yeah.
And Jared, what's your role with BeamNG.drive?
Yeah, so I'm the vehicle lead, and I come from a 3D art background too, so I also help with 3D art stuff and basically manage the team, figure out a lot of the background tasks, manage Jira, Confluence, try to help people out when I can, and try to support this amazing team that I'm surrounded with.
Wow, yeah, that's also another busy job by the sound of things.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So well, BeamNG.drive. So there's many people out there who are well aware and very familiar. Maybe they've watched some YouTube content creators doing some fun challenges and tasks in the game, but there might also be some people out there who are perhaps not too familiar. But it is available through early access on PC. So perhaps, Nataliia, could you just quickly explain to perhaps those who don't know kind of what it is? Although I would say that that's a difficult task because it's such a weird and wonderful, varied game.
Yeah, and it's definitely a question we will both be answering because my technical knowledge and physics knowledge is less superior than that of Jared.
Fair enough, but I'm sure it's very high still.
So yeah, I'm sure that most people know us as the crash simulator, but we're actually more of a soft body physics simulator. And we've been around since 2013. And yeah, I think, Jared, you can cover more since you've been around since 2013, and I'm here just under 2 years. So I'll give the word to him so he can cover how it all started, and then I'll take over and tell you where we're going.
Nice.
Yeah, so BeamNG is it's super unique because of the physics engine. And so it's a physics engine that's completely different than, the other video games out there. And that's because the forces actually travel through from like the wheel into the shocks into the body. And the secret is, you have two mass nodes and they're connected by a beam. And the beam could basically transfer energy. It could absorb energy. It could, once it's compressed, it could extend a certain length. And, spring, dampening, rebound, all that stuff. And, when you have all these properties and all this, these forces flowing through the vehicle, that way you could simulate pretty much, most materials in the vehicle realistically. And then the vehicle could react realistically, in any situation. And that's why, like the crashing is super nice, or like when the vehicle jumps and lands, like the forces pass through the vehicle really, really nicely. And, if you watch the YouTubers or slow motion, you can see the whole thing jiggle just like in real life. Amazing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's so great. Like what the physics people do in the video game company, like super, super impressed. And, that's what really separates us from the crowd is we could really do things with these vehicles that, what these other people can't do.
Well, you said it unique, and we're probably going to say the word unique several times through this interview. But let's say it's distinctive. I don't think there's anything else out there doing it quite like BeamNG. So, what's the aims of the project?
Yeah, so definitely the aim of the project. We have like a bunch of different people in the company, like the physics people. They want to create the most realistic physics simulator that's ever been invented. And then we have like the vehicle side, which I could talk a lot about since I'm the vehicle lead. And we want to create the most realistic. Oh yeah, so many car things. We just want to create the the most realistic vehicle simulation that we possibly could. And this includes putting in all the tiny details. For me, like I'm really into off-roading, so I have like the diff lockers, the hub locks, and then we have hydrostatic clutch simulation, and you know, all these like tiny little features, ABS, traction control, that both, you know, they all work like they would in real life. You know, trying to simulate every aspect of a vehicle. And with this physics simulation, with what they were able to create, you know, we could push it super, super, super far. And, you know, every update, we're just like, okay, like how far could we push these details? Like how much could we add to this? And, you know, we all come from a vehicle background, at least on the vehicle team. So, you know, I build real life cars and stuff, and, you know, weld and modify, like I built my own engine, all that type of stuff. And same with the others too. You know, we have a person that does drifting, like, you know, we've all been to the Nürburgring, like we love all like the real life stuff. And, you know, we want to take that experience and our passion and share it with everybody else to inspire people, you know, inspire people to get into cars, and, you know, show them what it's really like to drive these things, and really how these vehicles will react, you know, from, you know, could I like drift this? And, you know, what happens if I hit a curb? Like, how bad is that going to be? You know, all the way to like, could I do a barrel roll? Or, you know, like, what's the fastest lap time I could do on the Hirochi Raceway? Like everything. And yeah, just trying to push that limit as far as we possibly can.
Yeah, and the difference is there, like, we want to do it not just in a super highly technical way, but also in an engaging way, which is the kind of the direction we are working on in the future, to create some kind of content that is not just showing you the amazing physics simulation features that we have, but do it in a way that is fun. And I think that's like the combination of those two things is what sets us aside as well.
It's way more than just the physics on the soft body physics, like you said. There are campaigns and missions and fun things to do, and lots of different environments, and that seems to have evolved really well over the last couple of years, especially. I suppose that's going to be something expanded in the future, but for now, I'd just like to perhaps know about who, you know, right at the very beginning, who was sort of coming up with the ideas, and how was it sort of how did it come together right at the start?
Yeah, so that part is really crazy. And it's funny because so I was sort of around at the very start, because I was a modder for this game called Rigs of Rods way a long time ago.
Yeah.
Still a super fun game, so many memories. And yeah, so a lot of us, you know, we put into this open source project. And so you know, some people did the programming, some people did the physics, some people did the content creation, like the vehicles or the maps. And basically what happened is one of them was like, you know, same thing, like how could we push this further? You know, how could we, like, you know, add more to it, and really add some more features? And so they got some of the best modders, or like the creators, you know, like the physics person, the programmer, the level artist, and a vehicle creator, and basically put their talents together. And, you know, they wanted to put it into the Crytek engine and, you know, push things further. And they put together a tech demo and released it on YouTube, and it totally blew up, which is funny from my side. You know, I'm just like a modder, and like, I kind of heard about this stuff happening. And then I just see this video come out of nowhere, and I'm like, I can't believe soft body physics is this popular. And so
Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. Who knew? And like, even to this day, like, you know, we're all shocked, because we're all like, you know, we just want to create the best physics engine. Like the popularity was just like, huh, that's awesome. Like, so many people are into this physics.
We got over 1 million views on that video overnight.
Right. Wow.
That doesn't happen with any videos very often, right?
No, it's a lot of hard work normally.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that definitely propelled them forward and inspired them. And so they kept working hard on the game until the very first release. And of course, you know, the first release went really well. And then from there, the team kept growing. And what's really crazy about the team is like, everybody is so talented. And this, you know, like the workflow with this physics engine is super unique. So we have to find people from all over the world because there's specific talents that we need. Like, at least on the vehicle team, you know, I'm in America. We have a guy in Canada, a guy in Argentina, some Europeans, a guy in Australia, just because like the skill set is very, very specific, and we have to hire super, super talented people. And, you know, same with like the physics and the programming, like everybody is from all over the world, which is, it's really nice because we get all these ideas from all these different countries. You know, it's like from my side, from the vehicle side, it's just like, oh, we do this in Australia, and like, oh, we have like these crazy trucks in Canada. And, you know, I talk about like the redneck American stuff we do. And, you know, so it's really cool because we put together all of our talents. And so the team has kept growing, kept getting more and more talent, and like, you know, making this game bigger and bigger with more and more content. And yeah, it's just crazy seeing how it's grown. And the popularity is still there. And I just appreciate the community so much because they're always making videos, they're always talking about the game. And, throughout the years, we just keep adding more and more features, which is funny because, you look back and it's like, if we time travel back to 2013 and probably showed them the game today, it's just like, how did we get all that done? And that's because of all the talented people that we have in the company now.
Yeah, and we actually stuck with that process of like having remote people from different nationalities and different backgrounds working for us. Pandemic aside, we've already had these remote processes well established.
So there's no like centralized office or anything?
We do have an HQ, which is in Bremen, and we do visits when it's not pandemic times.
Of course. Yes.
And we do have like team building and stuff like that. But generally, everybody works from their own location and like takes their own holidays, that sort of thing. We try to cater to people as much as possible. Like we really value everybody who works for us. It's very important for us to make sure that they can actually use their passion to create something amazing. Which is why we didn't really force anybody to move anywhere if they didn't want to, because this has proven to work for us for so many years. And I think pandemic or not, we're kind of prepared, and we could actually share some tips on how to do this properly with other companies probably.
Yeah, well, yeah, there was definitely some growing pains initially for a lot of people, but
it's not an easy thing. And it takes a certain type of personality. Like you have to really be passionate about what you do to get up every day in the same four walls and still push as hard as you can to make something awesome happen. Yeah.
We
all know this feeling now.
Yeah. I think also that's really interesting because you mentioned, Jared, at the start, it was like all these different people coming together, like a grassroots development. And it feels like obviously now it's a more professional organization, let's say, for want of a better expression, but you still have this feeling by the sound of things of a community coming together from different countries around the world and different backgrounds to then work together on this one shared interest.
And actually we still hire from the community. Like we still hire amazing modders all the time to this day, and I don't think we will ever stop, because this works so great for us, and it also gives people an opportunity to develop their passion in this direction within the industry further.
Yes, that's really cool, because the modding community can be, you said passion there, very passionate about it, and they're doing it out of the love for the game or the project or the simulation, right? And so then to reward them and know that they will be deeply behind the project and putting their best foot forward is a really good way of doing things. Well, it's working so far, and you can definitely tell when you play the game, there's a lot of enthusiasm and, let's say, drive for the project, and that's clearly coming from people who work on the game, and it benefits the end user as well. And speaking of drive, I've always wondered for clarification on the .drive part of the name. I know a lot of people just say Beam or BeamNG, and obviously the full title is BeamNG.drive. So for those who don't know, let's explain what the .drive is, please.
Actually, I think a lot of people don't even know what NG stands for in BeamNG. We've kind of covered where the Beam is coming from, but NG is actually next generation. Right. And the .drive comes from the fact that we originally and to this day we're focusing on the vehicle side primarily, so cars. It's not impossible to have other kinds of vehicles in the game, and some amazing community modders have put their hours into creating some of that, but like officially on our side, that's where our main focus lies and will be for a while, I think.
Yes, I may or may not have seen some sort of playing by the community, but I guess obviously this is .drive because we're focusing on the driving aspect. So I understand now. I see. So it's not .fly or .boats or whatever it might be. It's .drive for a reason.
.refrigerator.
Refrigerator. Well, version 0.24 has just released at the time of recording, and there are some items that you can crash into and add into levels and play around with. On our website, on the article about the patch, we put a little clip of Ross, a colleague, driving into a couch, for example, which is funny. What? Why?
Yeah, Jared, please tell us why.
We all want to know why. Why couch?
Because we got so bored of cars. We're like, what is the next best thing we could do?
And that was a logical progression, was it?
The refrigerator and the couch is like where we could open the simulator up. No, but the real reason is, so we've had these props on the backlog for a really long time. And, we're so focused on the vehicles and like they're really technical. I mean, they take such a long time because of, all the research. trying to like engineer all the suspension points, making sure everything is super, super accurate so the engine could render it realistically. But, when we get a new person that is handling the J-beam, we want to start them off easy and not like, well, okay, here, like do an entire vehicle with like realistic damage. And it's just like, well, we got these props that haven't been J-beamed. They're like, didn't have the physics structure programmed for them yet. And we're like, so how would you like to do a refrigerator? Because we have a 3D model. So had them do the refrigerator. Yeah, that turned out well. And then the couch and the chair, the TV, that type of stuff. So, it wasn't like, oh, like it's our big focus to do these props. It's just,
was it not? I thought it was.
yeah, no, it's just the timing of the new person. I'm just like, okay, well, we could use more props.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, we're still pushing forward on all the vehicles, having such crazy content coming for y'all.
Right. Yeah, and the creators absolutely love these kinds of props. We've previously released the mattress and other kinds of things, and they are always the big meme. Like a day or two after, this is everything the community is talking about. So we do love to put some extra silly things that are also fun to engage with in the game.
Well, it adds character to it and it makes it part of what Beam has become, right? So not only is it a training tool, it's good for memes and it's just good fun for everybody. That's cool. It also reminds me of like some of the crazy detail in the game. Just to go back to vehicles, we've got these couches or fridge freezers which can be smashed around. But I remember in one of the recent updates this year, it was like, oh, now we're going to properly simulate engine oil, and it's like, what other games perhaps might not even consider that. So is it from you and the team's, Jared's sort of engineering and cartooning background that feeds into why that's one of the main focus of one of the main updates?
Yeah, so this has a lot to do with definitely like the super talented people on the vehicle team and and all of our backgrounds. Sort of like what I was saying earlier, where we all come from different areas. So, so like we have some people that are really into modern cars and like the technology, like how does ABS really work? Like the program, how does traction control really work? And then we have some other people that do drifting and fabrication. And then, my background, it's crazy because my dad, he used to build trophy trucks and dune buggies. So he has like a lot of fabrication equipment and I basically grew up in a junkyard. So like ever since I was like a baby, I would like run outside and be like, Dad, what's that laying on the ground? And he's like, oh, that's an alternator. And I'm like, what does that do?
That's a good education.
Yeah. So, a lot of us have like these types of backgrounds where, we know a lot of the details of these cars. And this is why we, hire around the world, because it's so tough to find people that are just as much into cars as they are a 3D artist or a programmer. And, trying to combine all those talents. So, like for me growing up around cars, like had a Foreigner and then I bought the Subaru and I totally rebuilt the Subaru, like rebuilt the engine, the different transmission, diff, put all that stuff in there. I fabricated the front bumpers, the rear bumpers, made my own skid plates, CAD design, all that type of stuff. And all of this real world knowledge, that I want to put into the game, and same with the other people. So we're like, we talk to the physics people and we're like, hey, could we add this feature? Or from the 3D art, like, oh, like I'm gonna add this detail of like the so like I know on the hopper, so if you lock your hubs and you spin the wheels while it's upside down with like the node grabber or something, you actually see the universal joint spin.
Oh, wow.
And but it won't affect the rear wheels because only the hub's locked and the transfer case is unlocked. And the same with other way around. Like if you lock your transfer case and you're upside down and you drive, you actually see the CV or the universal joint spin, but the wheels won't spin because your hubs aren't locked. I mean, there's like all these tiny details.
Actually, just on that, to interrupt, apologies.
Yeah.
Like, are you like deliberately rolling cars to then see if it's all working properly underneath? Is that part of the testing process?
Oh man, I wish. Yeah, where's the budget for that? I want to roll a car. No, I mean, at least on my side, like I take my Subaru off-roading all the time. Like I busted A-arm shocks, all that type of stuff, and that, it's just like, or like going to real life events. Like I remember going to King of the Hammers and seeing like these cars roll over and then the smoke coming out.
Yeah, that's a cool event. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know about it? Oh, it's so neat. If you could make it, it's so awesome. And then so like these real life experiences, it's like, oh, okay, like could we add smoke? And then, same with the other people that are really into it, super knowledgeable about what they do. So like the drifting, they're like, oh wait, so like this does this, when this happens, they'll do like GoPro recordings and stuff and really measure. And I know the one person 3D scanned their track that's local to them. So they could actually, test the in-game cars compared to how he's testing, at the real life track, and really figure out these details. Yeah, so there's just so much passion behind all of this, like putting in all these tiny little details to create the most realistic vehicle simulator we possibly can.
Well, yeah, speaking of all the details, one of my favorite elements is like the vehicle and the car names. Like Widgeon was a recent one that just makes me laugh and makes me smile. Well, I guess it's two questions. Where does the inspiration for the types of vehicles come from, and then whose actual role is it to think of what they're going to be, what they're going to be called?
Yeah, so the inspiration from the vehicles, so a lot of it we all read the forums, look at the YouTube comments, Facebook comments, Twitter comments, Instagram comments, and Nataliia could go over, we do a lot of look at the community, and then because of our backgrounds too, we have a lot of knowledge on like, oh, okay, like what would be cool, we might see something like, oh, like I didn't really think about that, that car, that maybe a user mentioned, right? And then internally, say it's like a drift vehicle, like the drift person be like, this is gonna be so cool, like we could add like so many different features to it, and this car is known for like doing this and this and this in real life. So we had this original idea for a car, and once we had that original idea, we then try to figure out like, what else do people do with the car in real life? So, you look at the D series and you see like everything that the D series, or like, what people do with trucks in real life. And we try to replicate that and try to like bring in the, the experience of all these different things you could do with the vehicle. So, like with the D series, like the experience, what's the experience of like rock crawling a truck, or what's the experience of like drag racing a truck? What's the experience of having like this big dually, 4-door log chassis thing and trying to park it type of thing. Right. And yeah, so from there we try to add in like all the variations you could have to like try to get the most out of these vehicles, and with the detail and the passion, try to create the best experience for the user, and also highlight the physics as well. So that's where the vehicles come from. The naming, and the funny thing about the widgeon and the pigeon. Well, okay, so the naming is just
they're just funny in general, regardless. Oh yeah, it is just hilarious.
I remember, when they said the name, I was just like, what? That's great. But so with the name, we're just like, hey, what can we do? Like, what should the name be? And we post it up. We have like a internal chat, Mattermost. Right. And it's almost like a Skype or Discord, and we're all like, oh, like we should name it this and this and this and this and this and this, and like we just come up with a big list, and then and usually something just pops out, like with the widgeon. They're just like, oh, it's also a bird, and it's like the pigeon, but like the widgeon is also like the pigeon in the video game, and this is really funny. Like we should do it, or sometimes it's like a very realistic sounding name, because like. Our goal in BeamNG is like realism and simulation over everything, and even when it comes to the names, like D series, like sounds like a real truck, right? And yeah, and the names sometimes have a little bit more of a meaning, like the Italian person, if it's an Italian car, like they'll say like, oh yeah, like this means this, or like this sounds really good in Italian. So yeah, that's where the names come from.
Nice. It's all a bit of a team effort, and if it fits what the car is going to be, and that's kind of inspired by the real world, and then that's how the vehicle's going to behave, so it all fits together.
Yeah, it's all collaborative efforts, and with the vehicles or maps or anything, we always try to bring something unique that hasn't been done before. Jared mentioned like we do collect ideas from the forums and YouTube and all other social medias as well. But you will often see like people going like, my Lamborghinis, like obviously we cannot do that because the Lamborghinis will not want their cars broken in a super realistic way on YouTube for like millions and millions of views. And you know, when we collect ideas, we try to collect stuff that is actionable. So if there is like 55 threads asking for some original supercar, that might not be as constructive as like somebody who describes some unique use case. Like that will actually be turned into a real Jira ticket and sent to an actual developer to consider. Cool. So yeah, we work with the community in the same collaborative way we work between ourselves.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And again, it's another thing that I feel, comes through every pore of the game is this is also done with the community in mind. And there is a very strong, passionate community. What's it like to have so many people that care so much about this game?
Yeah. Our community is certainly super passionate, and sometimes that can bring some challenges, especially when they're not being passionate. But I think we have established a certain level of expectation, like with releases, for example, community knows that it will be released when it's ready. And this is mainly driven by the fact that we do have such a research-driven development process. So we can just, make something in one day and put it in the game with the next release. It has to be really thought through and tested and developed in a way that actually makes sense. But generally, it is a lot of fun working with our community because they're always eager to share their ideas, and they're always happy. Like whenever we release an update and we go read the comments, 99% of it is just an absolute bliss, and the team is always happy to see that kind of feedback. And we are blessed also with the developers who are super passionate themselves, and they go out there and they interact with the community directly. So it's not just like we have a community manager that just feeds everything back and forth. Like we try to not do monologues, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we try to talk back and forth, and we always, even our CEO will often go and talk on the forums with the players and share some ideas and thoughts and feedback. Yeah. So yeah, it's an amazing community to work with.
Yeah, I absolutely love the community too, because I just see so much passion within them and so much inspiration. And it's really crazy too, because I'll hear stories like, oh wow, inspired me to learn about engineering and suspension design, and made me want to mess with my own car and figure it out. And the funniest thing about the community too is I go to a lot of car meets and stuff and car events. And word has spread that I'm a BeamNG developer, and every time there's a circle around me, and they're just like, wow, this game's so cool, what's happening next, and what features do you have, and and it's really fun too to talk to what do you do, because in BeamNG, because it's an open world sandbox, you could have so much creativity when it comes to playing. Some people like to do this and some people like to do that, and it's just the community and the passion within them is just so much fun, and they're really great. Every time I get a message on Instagram or something oh, I love the new update, and I'm like, oh, thanks guys, or if they're I can't believe you guys did this, this is mind blowing, we just we really try our best for the community, and they do a lot for us by supporting us, at the video game, talking about it, the YouTubers, and and we try to give them the best experience we possibly can.
It must really help the team and feed you energy to see that there's so many people who want to see this, I want to see that, because they care so much about the title, right? And okay, there must be some times where there's a lot to sift through, and you haven't got the time necessarily, but you're very, very privileged and lucky to have such a strong community there that's very, very positive. Speaking of perhaps challenges, what would you say is the biggest development challenge so far to date on the title?
Oh man, yeah. Overall, the challenge is just working with a unique physics engine.
Yeah.
Just because the development is so different than any other video game. And what's really crazy too is we have hurdles that are very unique to us that these other video game platforms don't have. So there might be a feature that a lot of people are asking about, and they're like, wait, why don't you guys do this? It's easy, but from the inside of understanding the physics engine, it's holy crap, this opens up a big can of worms. And there is a lot of stuff that we are working on, but because a lot of these features hasn't been tested, nobody else has really done this to this extent before. It's a lot of research and a lot of time that we have to put into it. And some stuff kind of comes easy because of the physics engine. So the damage, if you try using a different, a hard body physics engine, trying to program in the damage is very, very, very difficult. It's still really intense in what the J-beamers do. There's so much talent when it comes to the J-beam and making it accurate. But with what we have, it's kind of easy compared to these other video games, but then we have these other challenges. So multiplayer gets asked a bunch, but we have such a high level of polish that we want to do before releasing a feature. And, because of our physics engine, we have issues doing multiplayer. And so there's a lot of features like that where it's just very, very difficult, but, we still push through. We're still trying to make, the craziest physics and vehicle simulator we can. It's just, some features take a lot longer to do, which might look easy from the outside, and and then some of them are a lot easier. So but from the vehicle side, definitely the biggest challenge is making sure these vehicles are like engineered correctly. So the physics engine, because it's a soft body physics engine, it simulates bodies of like these objects, and the forces run through them realistically. That every suspension point has to be dead accurate, and there's a lot of suspension design that goes on. So like kingpin inclination angle, like if that's off, or anti-dive, anti-lift.
Wow.
There's like all these like tiny things we have to figure out. And and it's not only that. Like I remember we had this issue, we had the gas tank on the wrong side of the widgeon, and it was throwing off the weight balance. And we're just like,
big thing. Yeah,
exactly. And and like the way that the wheel moves up. So like I know on the pre-runner, I did the 3D modeling on the pre-runner parts. My wheels are set a little bit too far backwards. So like if you turn under full compression, the wheel hits the fender, and it's like, oh crap, and it's like these issues that you really only think about in like real life, like building and stuff. Like, oh, like if the wheel like goes all the way up, it's going to hit the fender, and now like the fender rips off. But we like kind of mess up, I messed up on the location of the A arms, and like it happens, in BeamNG.
Right.
So
shows how realistic it is and how much work goes into it. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, everything has to be, basically engineered down to the dot, whether it's suspension design, like how the chassis deforms, like how the forces flow through it, the 3D modeling, so stuff doesn't intersect, like all of our suspension has to be realistic, like the rock crawler hopper, the axle had to move forward just like in real life, so like it could clear the engine. That's what makes it really, really difficult, is all the research that goes into this, and all the thinking, and like the revisions too. We build it and we're like, oh, this isn't working. Just like in real life, you got to go back to the shop, you got to like cut the the linkages off and reposition them. But that's what also makes it fun. That's why I enjoy working on this project so much, because I love building in real life, and this gives me the same type of like feeling and passion and like love for these vehicles.
And this certainly applies to other areas of development. I think with the latest release was a great example of how we had to redo, or rather start revamping our entire UI, because we decided to introduce missions, which required this new map view mode. And when we added it to the game, like it just wasn't working with the technology for the user interface we had. And like pretty much last minute, we decided, you know what, it's time for a new user interface. So we started work on that with this new release. And because it's like, you never know what other part of the game will be affected. You have to really test and try and see what happens, and then go back and reiterate. And I think it applies to pretty much any team that we have internally.
I see.
And to
So
any feature.
It's not just the one idea; it's how that's going to impact everything else that's
exactly
involved, right? And then that can open a can of worms. But it seems to be going well so far from the outside, at least. And I'm sure you guys have got it all covered. I mean, one of the other things as well, like you mentioned, the most recent update, which we've previously talked about or touched upon. I was going to ask, whenever there's a Beam update, those patch notes are intense, right? So that must take a week to write at least.
Well, they are also, like many things internally, are a collective effort.
Yeah.
So generally what happens is we will create a set of internal pages where people will start populating what they've done to the game. And then we will review it several times, and we'll create like a public version of it. And then we'll go through that, and we'll see what kind of like maybe media we can add to that. Maybe this needs a video, this needs a screenshot, this needs another documentation article to explain it. So it does take, I would love to say that couple of weeks, but generally we don't have that kind of luxury. We try to, it goes both ways. So it's done, it's released when it's done. So as soon as it's done, it's got to go out. Like we don't keep it in the oven for too long. So we usually do it on the go, and then, release another set of patch notes after if something needs to be fixed. But normally it takes, I would say, the patch notes alone, several days. Ideally, the media in preparation to that, obviously a little bit longer, especially if it's something that needs to be visually presented, like the recent changes to the materials, the PBR, the physically based rendering, like that needed a lot of work internally to create the media for that to actually show the incredible difference in the visuals of the game. So ideally, I would hope for a couple of weeks, but actually, no, we try to do it as quickly as possible. So the days, the couple of days before the release, they are quite intense.
Yeah, but long days. I'm not I'm not jealous of those days, but I do love reading through whenever there's a new patch note and it's really in depth and detailed. And the team here, we love sifting through and going, right, oh, what's the sort of the bigger things we can pull out and write an article
Sometimes
about.
I even obviously I don't have a PhD in physics, and like I don't disassemble Subarus in my free time. Sometimes I have to. Sometimes I have to take a line from the patch notes and go back to the team and be like, well, "What does this mean?" So I can rephrase it in a way that's a little bit more human understandable.
Yes.
But our patch notes, like if you just read through the highlights, the devlog side of it, this is like a high-level overview. If you really start digging into patch notes, it's highly technical, and we try to include like pretty much everything we've changed that matters to the community, be that just a regular player or a hardcore modder. We try to provide as much information as possible at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to balance both parties, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned PBR, and I would love to ask about that. So obviously the visuals are taking a leap forward with this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happy with how it's turned out so far?
Well, it's not a finished process. Like we've begun transitioning materials both for vehicles and for the levels. The levels actually began a couple of days ago with the release of 0.24.
Mm-hmm.
With vehicles, we're a little bit further ahead, but there's still some work to be done. But yeah, I mean, the visuals speak for themselves, right? I think Jared can share a little bit more technicalities about this revamp, but try it for yourself. I mean, the game a year ago and right now just looks completely different.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah, PBR is definitely what revolutionized a lot of the visuals of video games. And I come from like a 3D art background. And, basically PBR is the difference of what makes a game like, oh, that's so 2010, versus like, wow, that's like 2020. PBR is basically a way to simulate the lighting and the material effects in a very realistic way. Mm-hmm. Where the old version, wasn't as realistic. You basically had 3 maps to control what a material does, where now you have more maps to control what a material does, and there's a lot of real life science to it too. So like the metallic map, metals reflect very, very different than plastics, and you feed the engine that information, and you get a lot more realistic output. And there's some other features too that we've added. So like the Fresnel effect, which is basically like as things get more of a glancing angle, you could try with your phone, like more of a glancing angle, it turns into a mirror. So there's like a bunch of these other effects that were added on top, and that's why these like the vehicle materials look really, really good. The map materials look really good. They're basically rendered in a much more realistic way now, and that's what brings like the art from like 2010 to now is that PBR change. The problem is there's no easy way to convert it. It's not like we could just like run it through a PBR converter.
Right.
It basically
do they not exist? Damn, that's annoying.
I know. Yeah, come on. we need that, please. We basically have to go through, and like some stuff's a bit easier, but we have to go through and adjust all the levels and maps and be like, okay, like this is metal, this is not. Here's your ambient occlusion stuff. I mean, I could get really techie, but so we're still trying to go through all those materials, and that's the thing about this game. Like we love this game so much that we're going through all the old stuff. And like we want to bring it up to par. We want to keep going, and keep adding more and more detail.
Well, yeah, it's been several years already, and we're looking forward to obviously seeing where that continues in the future. And as we've said a couple of times, the recent update came out, which was fairly substantial, and looking forward to seeing how the PBR evolves over time as well. But at the bottom of the recent patch notes, and we made reference to this on the Traxion.GG website, there was a little mention about some form of holiday period update. A vehicle, the Bruckle Bastion, was mentioned or teased there. Mm-hmm. Are we allowed to maybe probe and ask about that a little bit more, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we try to do these teasers every now and then at different phases of the development process. And I'm actually deliberately, even though they are themed, we usually release them on Tuesdays, and we call this campaign Teaser Tuesday. I deliberately don't do them in a predictable fashion because people go crazy over that. They try to calculate, okay, if the teaser was released today, that means in 10 days from now, we're going to get this car. Like, no, guys, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So you're double bluffing.
Yeah.
And then trying to work it all out. Clever.
I actually have these themes for every day of the week, and like I could come up with more. We just don't always have the time to fill something in there. But with the teasers, we try to give a bit of an early look at how things are going, to get a bit of an early feedback, and also to get people excited for it actually coming up. And I think Jared can talk a little bit more in detail about the Bastion, but there was actually another teaser released yesterday through our social media channels, and people already noticed that it's not just the Bastion that's in that teaser. There is more to it.
Ooh.
And that's like another thing that we do with our older cars. And I'm going to give over to Jared to cover both of those things now.
Well, just quickly, I will say that we will put a link in the description of this episode to that social media post if you want to have a closer look, anyone listening. So, Jared, I'm intrigued. I just thought it was a nice little red car I was looking at here. What's going on?
Yeah, hashtag like and subscribe. Yeah, so the new car, it's a modern 4-door sedan, V8.
Looks
and
like.
yeah, so I know we're lacking a lot on the more modern cars, and wanted something to really represent America. And yeah, so it's a muscle car, and we have a bunch of cool configs for it too. Like we have the drag racing version, which is really fun. Ooh. And there's a couple other variants too. I don't want to like ruin all the surprises.
Okay. I'll settle for the drag racing version. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's super fun. But basically, yeah, we wanted to incorporate newer vehicle technologies and basically have this V8 sedan, like something that looks like really muscly and buff, but could also like kill the track times. You could drag race with it, like roll around on the Hirochi Raceway pretty quick, and just have like a more unique, like a heavier vehicle experience.
Interesting. Yeah, that's looking cool. Will this be coming out before the holiday season? Is that the plan?
Yep. Actually, both of the things that are in the teaser, the Bastion itself, but also the other one that is teased. The teaser within the teaser from yesterday is actually also coming up, and this is a revamp of one of the existing cars, but that's been long awaited.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
I may or may not have accidentally forgot to remove the Bolide remaster out of the background on that one. And this is one of those community things, like everybody's like, we need a Bolide remaster. We need a Bolide remaster. And it's like, okay, yes, we do need a Bolide remaster. So it's the car in the background, and the one there is the rally variant. So we have like a rally variant, a turbo variant.
But certainly there's going to be this new car and then a remastered car before the holiday. Very exciting.
Yeah, definitely some content coming for everybody. And this Bolide's gonna be super exciting. I mean, like, I'm super excited to see what the public thinks about the the Bastion and the Bolide. And because you got on one side like the heavy duty American muscle car, modern muscle car, and then on the other side, you have this the older 80s Italian supercar. And basically, like, all the flavors that come with it, like the Bastion, like the drag racing, like going really fast on the track, and then the Bolide, you have like the turbo version, the rally version, normally aspirated, and basically two pretty different experiences, which is going to be fun.
Nice. They're a contrast to each other, and BeamNG is full of contrasts and variation, right, and variety. So it certainly adds to that flavor and that vehicle roster, which is very exciting and surprising that it comes so soon after another update. You see, you're just lulling us all into a false sense of security. That's not going to be anything else until 2022. Oh, no, wait a minute. Teaser Tuesday.
Wait a second. Yeah.
Nice. Keeping those expectations realistic, right? Better to surprise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, looking forward to it. And thank you for the information there. We'll keeping eyes peeled on the Beam social channels and website, and of course people can follow on TraxionGG as well. So once this update is out there in the public, is a team going to have some time off perhaps, or are you all working over the holiday period?
Yeah, we're definitely all hard workers, and some of us will be staying to cover things like community and support over the Christmas period and whatnot. However, all of us are taking a break at the end of the year every year. Our community knows about it, and we actually do try to sort of give back to the tribe that we are at BeamNG, and everybody who works at BeamNG will receive this huge box of gifts that are, BeamNG merch and stuff like that.
Is it Jared Subaru?
Yeah. Subaru stuff. Yes, I want a new turbo for Christmas.
There is one box specifically for Jared, which is just a bunch of parts for his Subaru.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, like a new strut. I know you bit your strut. Here's a new one.
The customs office would be so happy.
Yeah.
But this is quite a logistical challenge, but we always try to put the extra and give back to the team to make sure that everybody is rewarded for their hard work.
Well, certainly from the outside, it appears that there's been a huge amount of hard work going into it to this point, and I'm sure there will be going into the next years as well. So I think I speak from everybody in the community or as a fan of the game, or even someone who doesn't play it, or might not have a PC, but watches content creators on YouTube and loves it. I think everybody appreciates the hard work, and we're just very much looking forward to the holiday update, but also then the long-term future of BeamNG, because it's brilliant. I would like to quickly thank you both, Nataliia and Jared, for your time. It's been a pleasure. Hope you've had fun.
Thank you for having us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, thank you so much for having us on here. And I want to thank the community for being so passionate and so involved in like creating videos of BeamNG. And then of course, thank the team, because I'm surrounded by such amazing talent with everybody in BeamNG, super inspirational, you know, one of the best projects I've ever been involved with. So, you know, such a great experience with everything, you know, the podcast, the community, working, and yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing the podcast posted.
Yeah, well,
same.
Oh well, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to see the keen interest and the detail and the passion that comes from you both, and you can definitely tell that in the game as well. And I'm sure the rest of the BeamNG team is the same. So without further ado, I think we should wrap this up. Thank you everyone for listening. If you've got any questions or feelings about BeamNG, the team is always listening. So if you're on YouTube, leave a comment below. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform is your favorite, then visit the Traxion.GG website. We'll have a post about this. You can leave a comment there. Please do like and subscribe and share it. That really helps everybody. And don't forget to visit Traxion.GG, the website, on a daily basis. Thank you very much. Keep it pinned.